Hello and welcome to the Alpha Software Demo and Q&A webcast. I'm Dave McCormick, VP of Product Management here at Alpha Software, and it's been a few weeks since we have done one of these Q&A sessions and demos, but I've been busy and I've been working on some stuff that I think you're going to be happy to see today. Today we're going to be talking about the new test drive application. I'm going to go ahead and move to that screen. So just as a quick Q&A test, if someone could just let me know real quick if they can hear me and if they can see this screen. It looks like it says Alpha Anywhere Test Drive application on it. And if you can, that would be great. Let me just go ahead and just pop that in questions. Okay, wonderful. Good. We're good to go. Excellent. So here we are. And if you had seen some of our previous demos, or if you just simply used Alpha Anywhere and used the built-in login component, you're probably familiar with something that looks like this. This is what Alpha Anywhere will generate for you automatically when you use the security wizard. In fact, it doesn't just create the login screen. It also sets up things like two-factor authentication, and it even gives you a little menu in what's called a tabbed UI interface, which is what I'm showing you here. So if you've gone through this, you've probably seen this before. I know I've demoed it before. And as you click through, it lets you do certain things. Like in this case, you could set up two-factor authentication if I had just clicked on this link over here, and then you could fill in the fields and stuff over there. So over the last several weeks, I've decided that maybe we could take this sort of simple application and just push it out just a little bit further and have that as sort of a test drive experience for Alpha Anywhere. In fact, not just a test drive, but also a type of getting started framework that you can use. So I have built this out and I've placed it up on GitHub. I'll be giving you that link later. And this is what it looks like, the new Alpha Anywhere test drive application. Sorry, let me get out of PowerPoint here and let's just dive in, find the new one. In the meantime, actually, let me just grab this link. Whoops. And I'm going to paste the link for GitHub in the window in case you like what you see and you want to get a copy of it for yourself. I'll also be showing you how to make it work, how to set it up. So let me go ahead and put that into the chat window. And there it is. All right, cool. So I'm going to go into, I think I have this open in Chrome. Yeah, here we go in Chrome. And this is the new login screen. I've added a little bit of animation behind it as well. For those of you who saw our presentation on Lottie Files, that's actually where I went. I went to lottiefiles.com and got this free cloud animation and placed it here in my login screen. I'm going to go ahead and log in to my application. And you'll see it does look a little bit different than it used to. In fact, it starts by displaying a dashboard. Well, the beginnings of a dashboard. This dashboard uses our JavaScript charting library. And it actually is using real data that I got from data.gov that showed pet registrations in Louisville, Kentucky. I don't know, it just seemed like an interesting data set. So you could see they actually kind of spike here for both dogs and cats sometime in April. Anyway, that's just a sample. And you can see the other things in our application by going up here to the hamburger menu. And this is the home one. So if I click on home, this is all it is this dashboard. And this is the one that it defaults to when you open up the application. Now, moving down, we've got My Details. And this is just what used to be called the Extended User Information Table. So these are just more details about the currently logged in user that aren't otherwise kept in the username and password files. So things like their name, their company, their department, and you can add as many different types of fields here as you like. I'll even show you how to do that. We also have two-factor authentication still set up, and that's working. You just simply turn it on and then choose the method that you'd like. Let's say you did Google Authenticator. You could show the QR code, and then you could set up authentication just like that. Change password, pretty self-explanatory. We've used a couple of these nice password fields that are built into Alpha Anywhere, so you can show or hide the password up to your choosing. We have user administration. So when people come and log into the application or when they're created, you can create new people and you can manage what their roles are. So for example, user one has got all permissions. Dave, I think, also has all permissions. And I can add new people here by clicking the add button. it'll create a user here. So I'm going to go ahead and just close out of that. All right. So the other thing that's nice, and this is a feature that was already in there, but still it does work, is your ability to import and export users. So you can actually get an Excel template that when you fill in a bunch of users with their IDs and stuff, you can automatically load them into the system without having to enter them one at a time. Kind of a cool feature. Down here in user activity, this is kind of cool. When people log in, we keep track of what they do, basically what AJAX callbacks are being made when they hit the server. So let's say I set, actually let's choose a date range through the 14th and I hit refresh. I can take a look, and that's user one, that's who I'm logged into, and you could see all of the activity that I've been doing over the last few days. And in future webinars, I would like to show how we can actually code this activity so that it's a little bit more human readable. There are a lot of the screens here that I'd like to do updates for in upcoming webinars. Down here, there is a to-do list. I decided to add a little bit of functionality into it, so at least it does something besides just display a dashboard. So this is a working to-do list. You can add a new task here. It opens up a little window. So let's say I wanted to, I don't know, mow the lawn. And I'm going to say that's pending, and category is going to be on plants, because I guess. And again, this is totally customizable to however you'd like it. And you'll see that gets added in here. It says the create date, the category, and all that. And I have these color-coded tasks that have been completed are marked in green, and tasks that are on hold are marked in red. You can also export the list if you'd like to Excel. And then that's about it. One other piece of functionality that's kind of cool is that you can, in fact, create new users. So let's say I wanted to create an account. And we're going to just call this user5 alpha.com. We'll give it a password and create an account. You'll see that an account was created. Now, if I log in using my old credentials, which I'm going to do right here, and because I'm an administrator, I can, oops, I have to type it in correctly. There we go. I'll then be able to go into back into user admin and find that user that's just been created, user 5, and then I can also set permissions for user 5 as well. So I'll save those. My changes were saved, and now user 5 is both an admin and a user here on the system. So this application is meant to give you a head start when you're creating or maybe rewriting an application that you already have. It works fairly well on mobile, although in some future lessons, we're going to show how we can optimize it even a little bit more. But I have tried out all the functionality on a phone, and it works great. It works really well on a tablet as well. So I'm going to go here now to show you how it all was put together. Let's pop over here to my Windows machine, and let's take a look at Alpha Anywhere. So this is the project. Save. No, I don't think I've made any changes. So this is the project. This is what's available on GitHub. And you'll notice that the web components in it basically correspond to each one of the functions that I just showed you. The master UX is the one, I'm going to open that up, is the one that contains the menu, and it's the one that has the placeholder for all the other functionality. So how I have this structured is I have a menu that's built in, and it's an expanding menu. And when you open up a particular panel card with that expanding menu, it opens up a particular dialog or a particular UX. So in this case, let's scroll down to the one that was called extended user information, which I call simply user info. That opens up in that panel. The way I set that up here on the menu, let's go ahead into the menu. It's actually pretty easy. By double clicking on the expanding menu and then click on Menu Data Genie, you'll see all of the choices that we have in the menu. So here I put a little icon next to each one. So there was the icon, and I gave it a name. And then on the onClick event, what I did was I had it basically call this short piece of JavaScript called panel set active. And then in here, I put in the name of the panel that it's gonna open up. So when it opens up that panel loads the UX, and that's basically how the whole thing works. So if you wanted to remove something, you could, from the choices, you could delete its panel card and remove its entry from the menu. Likewise, you could go into the menu and add a whole bunch of new ones and add new X's and panels to go along with it. So it's all pretty easy to add and subtract as you like. So let's take a look now at how you would actually install this. So I'm not going to save that. So you would go up to GitHub and download this as, oh, let me see if I've got a GitHub window open. I think I might, or I could. Let's go here. There we go. And let's go to my Alpha test drive. And this is basically where that link will take you over here, Alpha Anywhere Alpha test drive. And then under code, you just say download zip. And you'll download that zip and you'd expand it on the computer where you have Alpha Anywhere installed. You can use the community edition for this if you like. When that is done, you're going to open up that project in Alpha Anywhere by opening up Alpha Anywhere, going File Open. And then there's one thing that you're going to need to do. You're going to need to change the Alpha DAO connection string so that it points to the right database on your, or points to the right place on your hard drive. And you'll do that up here by going into Tools, Alpha DAO connection strings, and there'll be a connection already called CONN. But as you'll see, if I edit that connection and I click Build and I click File Name, you'll see this is where it's located on my hard drive, which is Documents, blah, 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 Dave McCormick, so-and-so. It's going to be different on yours. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to point to the alpha testdrive.db application that was included in that zip file. You're going to find that in the default web projects directory. Let me move up a directory to show you where that'll be. When you install the alpha test drive, you're going to drill down into alpha test drive web projects, default web project, and that's where you're going to find that SQLite file. Now, it's cool using SQLite because everything is contained in one file. So that means that you don't have to set up a separate database in order to make this work. You just have to point the connection string over to that SQLite database, nothing to install. Let's see what else I wanted to cover here. Oh yeah, when you want to publish it, you're going to you can publish it to local root, or you can do a live test of the application as well, and you should be good to go. Everything you should have is in there. Speaking of databases, let's take a quick look at that SQLite database. And let's pop over here. And this is it. By the way, this is a great little program called SQLite Studio. If you don't have it, it's a really nice and free way to go take a look at your SQLite files. So this contains data about active users, audits, component security, all these. These are all things that say AA system tables are actually created already for you by Alpha Anywhere. I've created two new tables in here. One's called animals, which is just simply in case you want to use some sample data for something. And the other is called the to-do list. If I open up the to-do list, you'll see that's what powered the to-do list. I can take a look in that data for the to-do list. And you'll see that the mow lawn thing that I had just entered in a moment ago is right here in my SQL database, all working for us. So that is kind of what I wanted to mostly cover today. What I want to get to in some future webinars is drilling down and just showing how I worked on some of the functionality, just some basic stuff like how you had buttons to save records. We could talk a little bit in future lessons about the types of data binding that we're using. In one of the cases, we used what's called UX data binding, where it's data bound to a particular UX. Other times we bind data to lists. And we'll also talk about how we go and we modify styles. In fact, we can do that style one today because we do have time for that. But if you've got other questions or you'd like to see other things added in, please, by all means, let me know. And again, so someone says, this is a great question. Is it easy to change the overall color scheme? Yes, it is. So let's talk about that, because that's always a big question with alpha, is how do you go about making the elements different colors, sizes, and so forth. So in this project, I have created a brand new style sheet based on an alpha style called Mob Blue, or Mobile Blue. So mine's called Mob Blue Mod. You can see it here in project properties. That's my project style. I'm going to cancel that, and it is a style that is local to this web project. When you're in a particular component, like let's say we're going to go into the master UX, and we're going to do a working preview, and let's just take a look at something here. Let's say, okay, so we've got, some colors and stuff that are going on here. If I wanted to edit the style sheet that was behind that, I could edit it by going into properties, and you'll see where I've included the style name, and I've used the same style sheet in each one of my components. So when I make a change in one, it's reflected in everything else. So I'm going to go ahead and click Edit Style in Style Builder. And I'm going to go over to Code View, and I'm just going to click anywhere here. When I click anywhere here, anywhere here, you'll see that a little drop down appears. This is really handy. It lets you jump to each one of the styles that are used in this style sheet. There are quite a lot, actually, over 300 styles. And so how did I know which one to modify? Well, they are named in a kind of sensible way once you sort of get used to this naming convention about where it says grid and list and menu and things like that. You can sort of work that out. But sometimes you don't know exactly which style you're looking at. And this is where it's really helpful to use the Chrome debugger. It's really simple to do that. Let me just show you how that works. So I'm going to close this, and I'm going to go into working preview. And I'm going to open up the Chrome debugger. And let's say I wanted to do something about this style up here, this blue. I'm not sure where that came from. Maybe that's part of my style sheet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this thing here, which says select an element, and then I can move anywhere here on the screen. And in this case, I'm going to click up here, and then I can, my debugger hides in the background. And I can go and I can drill down into that style and see which style I am using. And I'll find my styles once I see what I'm highlighting here. Let me just highlight what I want. Yeah, there we go. Let's choose this one here. Well, let's choose another one. Let's choose this one here. And I can go over here now on the side, and it's going to show me the styles that are in effect. So it says, we're using something called Mob Blue Mod Panel Body. And it shows you the background color is, the color of the text and stuff like that. And you can actually type in here and change things if you wanted to. Let's say we wanted to make that font like Times. We really wouldn't want to do this, but let's make it Times New Roman just for fun. So, font, I'm making a mess here. Hang on. Font family. And let's do monospace. That should look pretty weird. So now look what's happened. Over here, I see that that's changed. So I know, okay, let's pretend I actually like that. I don't. But pretend we do. We would know that the one I want to modify here is called the Mob Blue Panel Body. So I've made a note of that. I can go back here into design. I can go into my style editor, load, go into code, and then from here, from that drop-down box, I would just go and find that style. Mob Blue Panel Body. And I could make the modifications here if I wanted to. I could change the font or something like that. I'm not going to do that, but I could. So the nice thing again is that we've used the styles consistently on each one of the UXs. We've tried to do everything as a class. So when you make changes to colors, they will be reflected. Let's see what else we've got here. What about using style tweaks as an alternate? That's actually a really good idea, and I'd be happy to cover that in a future one. Style tweaks are an even easier way to make changes quickly. So let's put that down for a future webinar. Thank you very much. Great suggestion. And now let's see if we have other questions here. Question I've got. List builder conditional row style. How do you check for null or blank value in the time date field? I'm not actually sure about that one, but I will find out for you. Writing that down. And then someone else said that they were trying adding two button containers vertically, and I get space between the two containers. So if you're dealing with some spacing issues when you are laying out something in a UX, let me just go and create. Actually, let me leave this project. Let's go into my other project. Let's take a look at how that's done. Because sometimes spacing is tricky. All right, let's just do a new UX. Component UX. Okay. And we will do, let's add a container. Just a regular container is fine. And in that container, we'll put a button, which is on other controls. Button. And then I think I can just duplicate these. It'll just change the names for me. And there they are. I've got two buttons. Let me just label one button 1 and button 2. All right, so these should be stacked one on top of the other. Now on each of these containers, let's put a border on so that we can see where the container begins and ends. So under that, I'm just going to go into borders, into style, container style. I'm going to say border 1px, border style, solid, border color, blue. Copy that, just make sure I type that in right. I did, great. And we'll do the same thing with this one. Container style. Paste in that same bit of CSS. Let's take a look here. Now here I've got, they're wedged up right next to each other, but you could see there is a little bit of space here in between. So there are a couple things you could do. If you found that there was too much space between these two containers, and right now there isn't, but you can actually set the margin to be negative if you wanted to. So for example, in the container style, you could say margin top negative 10 pixels and pop over here to working preview. And you'll see that one is now overlapping the other one. In fact, it's moved up into its space. The other thing you can do is you can get rid of padding in the box, if that's what the issue is. So that would be on the inside of the box. You could say padding 0 pixels. Go into working preview, provided I type padding right. I didn't. You need a G, padding. And I might have to do the same on the button as well. Actually, I don't have to on the button. And you'll see this has got a lot more space, whereas now the button is right up to the edge there. All right. So in this case, yeah, I didn't use a button container. So I'll take a look at button containers, but I usually just use regular containers when I lay things out, and I usually don't have an issue with that. And you need to have multiple buttons per container. That shouldn't be a problem either. We could add another button here. Just go ahead and duplicate that control. And I'll turn that off so that they're hanging out next to each other. Oops. Next to each other. We can shut off the line break. And here we go. They're next to each other. If there's a specific case that you have a problem with laying out, just send over a screenshot of what it is and what you'd like fixed. And I could absolutely help you out with giving you suggestions for what setting to change and how to change it. So that's what I wanted to cover today is the brand new Alpha Test Drive application. I hope you guys do have a chance to go and test it out. Again, the GitHub link is in the chat window. It's github.com/alphaanywhere/alpha test drive. The Alpha Test Drive is uppercase A, uppercase T, uppercase D, because I believe it makes a difference in GitHub. If you have any other questions, go ahead and send them over to guides, GUIDES, @alphasoftware.com. And I look forward to seeing you at our next Wednesday webinar. Till then, take care and stay well. Bye-bye.